Hey, welcome back to Burnt Wood Workshop, or welcome to Burnt Wood Workshop. I'm Al, and today we're going to go over ugly doors. We're going to take a door like this, and we're going to turn it into something like this. No need to have ugly doors in your house. I was going to do a bunch of other stuff, but it turns out with all the things going on, and I'm trying to build my house, and I'm fixing up another house, and I maintain another house. So I figured what I ought to do is start doing a little bit of what I do on the houses. So this door here is one of the projects I did. And we took an ugly door that cats had clawed up and basically turned it into something a little nicer looking. And that's going to be the next couple videos, is different things I'm going to do around the house while I'm building my house and fixing houses up. So this is all laser cut, 2 layers, and I'll show you some options, and we're going to show how this works. So to elevate this door, what I did was I had bought some corner designs, and I basically modified it so there was a 2-layer design. It was originally just a line drawing of this. So we converted it over in Creative Space, and we made it a 2-layer piece. So the first one I did stained and natural, so we get a 2-tone look. And then I experimented around with some different ideas, and I tried it in red. And I thought that looked pretty cool. And then the other option you have is when you cut the red out, you could take those red pieces and do the stained and drop in the red pieces as accents. Just to show some options of things you can do. And I just showing a couple here just to show what this would look like. So you could do it like that, but what I fell upon, and this is just a small prototype that I did. This is just a small prototype. I didn't want this size on the door, I wanted something bigger. So what I did was I cut it out in blue, like this, and made it larger so that it looks more to scale on the door. And then I showed it to my wife and said, do you like it this way, or do you like it with the 2-layer? And I agree, she likes the 2-layer. I think that looks really cool. So this is what we're going to end up with on our door. So if you watch this video and you decide this is something you'd like to do yourself on a wall or a door in your house, I'm going to offer the laser cut kit of all 4 corners of these, the runners, all laser cut, and the center design, so that you can do this on your own door, wall, or whatever you'd like. I would probably spray prime and spray paint these if I was going to do this again, rather than hand paint them. I think it would look a little nicer finish. And if you like the video, give a thumbs up. If you stay to the end, I'm going to have a little Christmas bonus up till Christmas. And I can't fucking think of what the hell's next. So I'm going to offer the whole kit with everything, but if you would like to get, like, say, just the top pieces or just the centerpiece, leave me a comment and I can make that available. And if you like the video, give a thumbs up. Okay, when I decided to bling up my door, I had a couple choices. These were the 3 top contenders for what I was going to make, and I probably should have gone with one of these 2 because it would have been a lot less work, but I like making life difficult, so I picked this one. And when you get into this one, it turns out with this one here, I would have had a single run running around the door to frame it. With this one, I end up with 2. So it actually ended up being more work. Something to think about before you start one of these. But in order to make this a 2-layer engraving, what I ended up doing was taking this layer here and doing an offset. And I tried to do an inner and an external offset. And the first couple times it didn't do all of it, but now this time, because I said that, it's going to do it. So basically, we're going to take that and move it to blue so you can see the difference. So what we ended up with was the blue is our outer layer. Well, you can't do that. All right, I thought I could. The blue is our outer layer, and the red is our inner layer. So if we take the red, we move it out, this is our cut piece, and that's going to go over the top of this piece. What we want to do is we want to group this. And when this did the external engrave, or the external trace, when we did our offset, it ended up adding a few things we don't want, all these little dots. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically release this again. And we're going to go in here, and we don't want that. And if you hold the shift key down, you can pick a couple of them. Well, it's going to make a liar out of me. It's because it's grouped. All right, so ungroup it. Now, we don't want this. We don't want this, or this, or that. So hold the shift key and delete all those. And then we have a bunch more. I don't know why it did this, but just stuff you got to watch. I'm just going to hold the shift key. Pick those. We're going to delete them. And we've got 3 more here. Delete those. Oh, we got another one. Delete that. And then we're just going to clean these all up. I don't know why I put these in here, but we've got just a bunch of little stragglers that we don't want. I'm going to pick all those. And when you delete things, make sure you don't delete like a large piece like we just did here. Just go back. That puts it back. Then go and delete the ones you want to delete. But we'll go through, we'll clean this up. This will be our outer layer. This will be our inner layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make strips to run around the door frame. And we'll go over that. And the other thing we're going to go over is finishing these, because I did some things on these that I would do differently when I do this again. So we'll go over that too. So this is the door we're going to start working on. And as you can see, the cat has done a number on it. So we're going to patch that, and then we'll be able to prime our door and update it. So what we did was, the door was really scratched up by the cat. So what I used was a DAP plastic wood, and we just filled it, and I sanded it with 240 sandpaper with our sander. Just make sure, like, we got a rough spot right here. There we go. All nice and smooth. So then what we're going to do is we're going to clean this down with a crud cutter, and then we're going to prime it and get it ready to do our embellishments. So when we prime our door, I just use these foam rollers. This is a little bit of a cheap one, and they're not really as good. These Wiz white woven rollers work excellent, and they make a real smooth finish. So if you're painting your stuff, pre-painting things before you cut them on the laser or whatever, this stuff works great. Or any of these microfiber ones. These foam ones work pretty good, but not perfect. But for something flat, they work really nice. And kills, all-purpose, always works great. And then, if you don't want to use paint pans and all that stuff, you can cheat and do like I do and just do it this way. Because I'm lazy and I don't want to wash and rinse out paint pans. But the foam ones, they kind of wrinkle up like that. Weird. But they do cover good. And it's primer, so we're not super concerned. But when it curls up like that, we just roll over it and do a final pass and smooth it out. I'm just gonna slide up. And I put this over the stirring stick, just so it doesn't get in the crack for putting the lid back on. And I'm just gonna roll this out. Get a good coat of primer on it. Get that edge. And as you can see, as we prime this, I didn't get it perfect, but there's only a couple little marks versus the whole door being clawed up. one of the funniest things is if you ever watch these videos where they speed it up and then they're talking during that part where they've sped it up. It sounds like the chipmunks from Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alright, and that is primed. And that is lunch. So here's our door that was pretty much all cat scratched up. We've got a little bit there that's not perfect on the inside of the door, but the whole rest of the door is perfect. Really nice and smooth and looks like a brand new door. So that's where we're going to start from with our next layer. Okay, so here we have increased the size up to 6 inches. I think this is going to be the right size for what we're trying to do. So let's take a look. So there's our lower piece. Making a mess here. And there's our upper piece. So the two together look like that. And the cat is making all kinds of racket. Okay, so we've got our piece, and we've got it all painted up on the edges so they're not black. So we get nice blue edges, so it looks nice. And I've got a combination square set up for the layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our combination square, and we're going to get it pretty well. So we're just going to take that combination square, and we're going to get it laid out so that it's nice and square in both directions. I keep hitting my stand. Okay, so now we've got it laid out square in both directions. We're gonna take our pencil. We're just gonna do a light line so we know right where it's gonna go. And then we're gonna put some glue on it and a couple of finish nails. Okay, so we've got our mark. We're just gonna put some Type Bond 3 Ultimate on there. That's supposed to stick real well to paint, to a painted surface. And it's also easy water cleanup, which is nice. I'm just going to put a little bit on there. And then we'll smear it around. So we have a good surface area. I'm going to take this and I'm going to stick it down like that. And we'll take our square and just make sure that it's still lined up good. And we're just going to pop a couple of 5/8 brad nails into it. Okay, so we've got her secured, and then what I'll do is I'll take a Q-tip with a little dampness of that. Okay, now we've got it secured. We're just going to take a damp Q-tip and just clean up our excess glue. Just so it looks nice and clean. There, that looks good. And then we're going to get our other side set up, and then we'll run our runners across. Okay, we're going to move the camera like that. And we're going to take our other one, and we're going to... Whoops, stuck to my finger. it again. I think we got her pretty good right now. Yeah, that's real good. Okay, so we're just gonna put a couple little lines on there. And I think I'm gonna put a little less of the glue on it. So we have a little less squeeze out. Okay, I'm just going to smear that around, get the whole surface area covered. Put this right on here like that. And square it back up. Like that. And we're just going to do a little crazy test here and see how well our runner fits. All right, it's a little long, just like I'd hoped. So we're going to make sure we're good. I'm going to put a couple brad nails in it. I don't think we need a ton of them. Just enough to keep it secured while it dries. And I'm using 5/8 brad nails. Just little 5/8 brad nails on this. And then we'll get another damp Q-tip and clean that one up. And we'll cut our runner and put it down. Okay, so we're going to take our runner and put it in. And I just put a little mark where the end of it is. And I'm going to cut it with a pair of these. I've had these for years. They work really nice. And I can put a link to them on Amazon. It's not the exact same ones because I don't know if they make the Craftsman ones anymore. But you just clip your piece off just like that. And then we'll check it for fit. And that's beautiful. So we're going to run a bead of glue down it. And I shut the glue again. Habit. I don't want my glue drying up on me. And half the time I've done it with a day. And some days I'll come back and my glue will still be opened and dried up. So. Alright, let's wipe the excess off of that. And we're going to set our runner. I'm just going to put a couple of brad nails in that. And clean up our excess glue. And there is our top inner section. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll lay out our outer one. And I'm trying to decide if I want to paint a color in there. I think I'm just going to leave it like it is and assemble it. But that's an option, is you could paint this inner line a different color if you wanted to. It is a possibility. Okay, so we are going to get our next runner set and get our bottom inner piece in. So to fix this little spot here, we're going to go get some CA glue and we're going to glue that in. And because the brad is what caused this to split, we're going to drive that brad in so that this piece goes right back where it was. Which actually the ultimate glue, I can feel it sticking. So I think we're good. We don't even need CA glue. Clean up the excess glue on the edge there. And that actually went back together quite nicely. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a little bit of touch-up on that before we stick our next piece on. So we didn't need the CA glue at all. So I'll put my cap back on that. We're going to let this dry up a little bit. We'll do our next level. So when you're laying up this outer piece, because you've only got a small area to square it up, what you want to try and do is get this pushed as tight against the flat edge as you can, just to make sure it's squared up. And also kind of look by eye, and you can see if it looks even, you're in good shape. And that piece is popping up. We're going to CA glue that. I lied. All right, so we've got this piece figured out. We're gonna nail that down and get it ready to go. Yeah, I gotta find my glue. There's my glue. I think we're gonna use a little less glue than we've been using. I have an awful lot of squeeze out. I'm not sure how far we have to go with the glue, but I think I'm gonna try and get all the long runs and outer edges and see how that works. Because this is going to be pinned too, so. And keep your cloth handy. Get this looking pretty even like that. That looks pretty good. So we're going to give that a couple of tacks. Okay. And that is our outer piece. That was the air compressor running for the finish nailer. Now the bottom one here is going to be a little tricky for setting this part. So we're going to get the top set up and then we're going to get our runners laid out. Then we'll do our bottom pieces. That way we can bottom right to them to get them squared up properly. And I slipped. Okay. That's looking really good. Okay, there. Should be good now. Now this time we're going to push lightly on the nail gun. All right. And our top two, because they should be dry by now. Okay, so this is our next runner. We're going to get it set up. That's right. Clip it off. And test fit it, which... All right, now this one I ended up clipping the wrong side of the line. It's got a tiny gap. We're going to fix that easy though. We're just going to put a little filler in there, a little dap, and we'll paint over it. So I'm going to situate this tight to that side so I can set this side. Back farther from the edge and kick the camera again. I hope I didn't throw it off too far. Yeah, I threw it off a little bit. All right, so there is our first layer with both inner and outer. So you can see what we're going to have for a base. And we have a little glue sticking out there. So now we're going to take our runners and we're going to get those laid out to set up our bottom. So to fill in our gaps, I'm just going to throw in some spackle. Some nice dap. Just gonna put a little dap in the cracks and try not to get it all over everything. But just put on with your finger and if you rub that down in, it'll go down in the cracks and hide them. And then we're gonna let that dry up and we will put a coat of paint to touch it up. The nail holes, you don't have to worry about as much because if you were doing this, just this layer, and calling it good, then you'd want to fill in those nail holes. But if we're going to do the second layer like I'm doing, you don't have to fill the nail holes. We'll let that dry up. We'll touch it up with some paint, and we'll put our next layer on. So now that we've got everything puttied up, we're just going to come in with a brush. We're just going to touch up our spots that are puttied so everything looks good. Get right down on the edge like that. Okay, so our next layer is going to be this piece here, and I've already stuck this one on, but basically we're just going to stick this on with CA glue. So I'm going to just put a line of CA glue on this. And drop it, that's always good. And then we're just going to center that up on there like that. And there is our corner, our second layer on our corner. And then just to see what it's going to look like with both corners done, I'll do this next one here. The reason I'm turning away from the camera is because my eyesight is not good enough to see, and I'm getting the glue on the piece if I'm facing the camera, which is in the shade or in the shadow. But what I'm basically doing is I'm just getting all the outer edge pieces and a couple of the wider spots and stick it to my finger. I always say I'm going to wear gloves when I do this, but I never do. But there is our double layer. And we'll finish up the rest of these. I'll make my runners and we'll show what this looks like wrapped up. So I don't know if this piece in the center is a little over the top or if it's just right, but I'm going to put it in here and just add a little something to this center. I couldn't figure out exactly what I wanted to do, so I came up with this. Now, when you're setting something like this, I found what my center measurement is, and I set my tip to the center. And then if you want to make sure this is going to look straight when you're done, any kind of a square, like a sheetrock square or a carpenter square, will get you so this looks good. Because the last thing you want to do is glue it on and have it be crooked. Especially when you're looking at stuff diagonally or at a weird angle. You can't always tell if it's perfect until after you're glued and done, and then you go, oh man. So we're going to glue this up and see what we get. Okay, so putting these long, narrow strips on, I made these out of pine and I ripped them down to fit. So they're not laser cut. And what I didn't do on this upper piece was paint the outer edges. I left them black because I kind of like the look. But now that I put these on, these are painted on all three sides and it kind of stands out. It's a little late to do that. So something to think about if you decide to do something like this. Think through, my laser won't cut pieces this long. I could have done these with 1/8 inch and laser cut them so they had the black edges too. And I could have done these in 2 pieces. Something to think about. You might want to do these in 2 pieces laser cut so that the charred edge matches instead of being all blue. It's not a big deal, but it is something to keep in mind if, you know, if that's something you are concerned about. Okay, that's all 4 of those on. And we're going to cut the piece for that out and finish this up. So here's what our door looks like with all of our layers on. And I'm working on the centerpiece right now. So to fill in our gaps in between where these 2 pieces meet up, I just used some Alex Plus spackle, filled them in. and then we're just going to touch them up with some blue paint. And the only thing I did that I would have done differently is I would have either painted the edges of this or laser cut these, because now these are painted on the sides and these are black on the sides from the laser cutting, so they don't quite match up. But it's my bathroom door, so it's not for a customer, so I'm not going to worry about it. But if you're going to do that, you might want to keep that in mind. It does make a little bit of a difference when you're looking at it. And the ultimate glue that I used, you got to be a little more careful wiping it off, because I do have a lot of brown spots where it squeezed out, and I thought I got them all, and I did not, so I have to touch all that up. So I would maybe CA glue everything. I don't know how well it'll hold up over time, but the ultimate glue kind of smeared out a bit, and I don't know if you can see, like along here, it squeezed out and you get a brown line. I don't like that. So something else to think about. We'll do some more experimenting on this. So we got some of that brown on the edges. And when you're touching up something like this, and you've rolled it out or whatever, when you cut into it, you just want to dry brush it in. You don't want to leave hard stop lines. So just make sure you brush it out nice after you cut in. We're gonna cut into here, get that brown, and we're just gonna feather it out a little bit, and that'll clean it up so that when it dries on the door, you won't see any dramatic changes. It'll flow nicely and blend in. So like here, we're just gonna take that and just brush it out nice. And it'll dry looking a lot better. Right here, we got a lot of browns. We got to really do some touch up here. Anywhere you've got thick paint, you just want to float it out nice. We got a couple little brush marks right there we want to get out. There. And then we'll finish the door up, do a little touch up on the rest of it, and we should be in good shape. So here's an example of what I was talking about, where the brown glue kind of bled in. We're going to touch all that up and fix it. So from an ugly, clawed up mobile home corridor, we end up with this. And I think that looks much nicer. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over some tips and things I learned when doing this and show you how to do a better job than this one came out, which came out pretty nice, I think. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more. I'm going to keep doing a little bit of everything. The engravings, I'm going to keep doing my engravings. I'm going to keep doing my 3D layered designs. But I'm also going to be doing a little home improvement stuff and building, because I'm building my house, and I'm going to share some of that. Try to do some different stuff. One of the things I learned a few things on this. If you're going to do the 2 layers, I painted the edges on this one, but I didn't paint the edges on this one. I should have. It would have looked a lot better for the runners because I didn't laser cut them. If I'd laser cut the runners, but they were too long, they were 24 inches. My laser won't cut that big. I've only got the S1, which is a fantastic machine. It does everything I want it to do, but it wouldn't do anything that big, so I had to cut those on the table saw. If you're going to cut them on the table saw, put a 0 clearance throat in so that you don't have that gap, so that the pieces don't fall in behind. It makes a mess. So if you have an M1 Ultra, another thing you could do is do these in vinyl and stick them on the door instead of doing the whole layered thing. You could even possibly do 2 different colors and layer the vinyl and get that similar look. Something to try, and I may try that in one of my future videos. If you'd like to see that, leave me a comment. And if you like them, give me a thumbs up, leave some comments, any ideas. I would also switch to a clear PVA glue is what I'm going to look for next, because if I do one of these, that brown touch-up is very time-consuming. And in some of the tight places, I couldn't actually touch up the brown, so I think I'm going to try a clear PVA glue this time. I was not aware of that until after this, so we're learning as we go. But that's what I've got for now. I hope you enjoyed it, and my next video is going to be a little more elaborate door.